Now, about this bullying business. Here's a story from the Raleigh News and Observer. Obama makes time for bullying prevention effort. So here you have teachers, you have teacher-funded bullies defacing the Capitol building in Wisconsin, effort to intimidate elected officials. Obama, who's the de facto leader of these said bullies, says bullying has no place in schools. We had a caller say, why doesn't Obama stop the bullying in the Middle East? I think it would help everybody to recall what Obama's opinion of this country is. He thinks this country has been a bully in the world. Look, you know it and I know it. He believes that this country's... Well, that's one of the reasons why he's not doing anything in Libya. May we be honest about this? He's kind of hamstrung because he was out there ripping into Bush for all those years for Bush's democracy project in Iraq. And remember, even before Obama was elected to the U.S. Senate, he was running around saying this is a horrible thing. We had no business being there. It's none of our business. Weapons of mass destruction, all of it. U.S. has no business trying to shape events. It's none of our business over there. Who are we? Well, now, Cairo and Egypt kind of happened. He was able to throw himself in front of that mob, but he didn't have to really do anything, make a couple speeches. Libya is a little bit different. This is actually a powder keg. Things are good and blown up, and you got a real lunatic leader here who's capable of anything. And the world is clamoring for some moral leadership, some guidance. And Sarkozy has had to step in and provide it because Obama is hamstrung. A, he has said we have no business telling these people what to do. And B, he's ripped Bush. It was a central aspect of his campaign, in fact. He's already had to tell the truth to his people. He never intended to close Guantanamo Bay. Now, in the same week, to have to go against his own avowed belief that we have no business telling anybody in the Middle East what to do, to step in there and do something about Libya. So, we are the bully, and because we've been the bully, we're not going to be the bully anymore. So we bring bullying, we make it a domestic issue that is so important that the White House has to get involved in it. And, of course, we all know that it's Muchel's issue. I watched it this morning. I watched it in the White House. Muchel was running this whole show. She was carrying the water on this. Obama was not even in the camera frame. Well, at times half of him was in the camera frame. But she was running the whole thing. It's ridiculous for the federal government to be involved in an issue like this. The other reason that Obama might be afraid to do anything in Libya is that bullies are notoriously cowardly. If there's any what makes a bully? A bully is somebody who goes after somebody much weaker and much smaller. Bullies are notorious cowards. If there's any real risk whatsoever to the bully won't take any action. Might mouth off a couple words here, but really won't get into any serious action by definition. Here's Conrad, Fremont, California. Conrad, welcome to the EIB network, sir, and hello.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet, sir.
Great privilege to be on your show. I wanted to make a comment. I've been in and around the unions for about 30-some-odd years. And to hear this Wisconsin thing and unions throughout the United States, all I ever see and have learned through the unions is that they just want to take. They never want to give back. And when you're dealing with non-union entities and you have competition, all these other people can keep dropping their prices and asking their people to take pay cuts. Why can't they agree to come back and take pay cuts?
Well, now, you have to correct me here, but I think the private sector, there have been a number of cases where unions have done that. I mean, I said 3 weeks ago in this program, I talked about some union people when I was trying to make myself understood that I'm not opposed. If you want to join a union, feel free, but understand what you're doing. But a lot of airline pilots unions and flight attendants, they've had to, I don't know what the term is, give back. They've had to release some previously won so-called salary gains in order for the airline to stay open and flying and so forth.
true.
And I got people. What do you mean unions never give back? Who are you talking about? So, but in the private sector, I think they have. It's not standard. What we're really talking now about a different kind of union today. You're talking about the private sector places, the auto workers and the mine workers and steel workers and that kind of thing. The real focus of attention today, and by today I mean in this era, is the public sector government union employee because of who pays them. They don't make anything. There's no production going. It's strictly a redistribution of wealth. Now, nobody would have a problem with it if they hadn't gotten so greedy. If you have the average private sector salary in Wisconsin, salary and benefits package, let's look at it this way. The average salary and benefits package in Wisconsin equaling $60,000, maybe $62,000, and the private sector, public sector union people making twice that, that's not sustainable because the people who are paying them in many cases have lost their homes, have lost their jobs, and even if they're working and have their homes, they're still paying, their taxes are paying these people twice as much as they make. And it's, and this whole notion of collective bargaining, when you're talking about a public sector union, collective bargaining against who? The people. There's no evil boss here. There's no fat cat, cigar chomping, private jet owning ogre flying around that everybody hates and despises. These people are engaged in collective bargaining against Joe Sixpack. And it's tough to make the case that Joe Sixpack is the enemy. So they don't really try to make the case that Joe Sixpack is the enemy. Somebody is. It's Republicans. It's Bush. It's Governor Walker. It's the enemies of working people and so forth. And it's all bogus because the working people, by definition, are making half what the union people make. The whole lexicon that surrounds public sector union people has been bastardized. They are not the aggrieved slave labor, have to work 6 days a week, 80 hours a week, barely scraping by, getting black lung. That's not who we're talking about here. And yet that's what people try to make us think that we are talking about. The public sector union has nobody on the other side of the table opposing him. Joe Sixpack's not in there at these negotiations. Well, that's what is a sort of a mockery here about collective bargaining. Who's on the other side? Who's the enemy? Who's paying these people? Us. The people as a whole. Representatives of the taxpayers ought to be in there, but they aren't. The closest the taxpayer has is their elected official, who, if he's a Democrat, is in the pay of the unions. So where is what really the way to look at this? For the first time, the taxpayers in a long time have somebody looking out for their interests. It's Governor Walker and the Republicans. I mean, everything about this is really wrong. It's 180 degrees out of phase. They're trying to take the old stereotype of a private sector union person and attach that to a public sector union person, which works 9 months a year, earns twice as much as the average citizen in the state, taxpayer, and somehow is constantly angry. And this same person's dues are automatically deducted, and they end up at the Democrat Party. So in addition to all this, the taxpayers who are paying the salaries of these public sector people are ultimately the source of campaign donations for Democrats, because 95% of all deductions in dues go to Democrats. Well, where's that money come from? The money comes from citizens of the state of Wisconsin or any other state. You know, I've explained it in great detail the past couple of weeks or so. It's a money laundering operation. So it really is, if you try to think about it, here you have the unions and their union bosses and leaders, their John Meanies, their Richard Trumkas. When these contract negotiations take place, when this precious collective bargaining session takes place, who in the world is representing management? Management in this case is the taxpayer. Who's representing nobody. What normally you have is a Democrat governor or a Democrat state official negotiating with the Democrat union leader. How do you think the financial arrangements got to be so out of kilter as they are? So the real way to understand what's happened here is in Wisconsin, for the first time, the people who earn the money, who are paying the salaries, first time somebody representing them in the whole arrangement.